Good evening and welcome to the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby P. Kinzer.
And I'm Thomas Doty.
And yes, we are the FITT Show, helping our people get their finances in shape. Welcome everybody around the country and around the world. Today is Thursday, April 24th, and we're coming to you with our 195th show. A lot of y'all have been with us since the beginning, and we want to thank you for hanging there with us. And we try to give you information, news that you can use. And remember, just want to give this disclosure statement. We are not financial advisors. We are not licensed or qualified financial advisors. We are financial education instructors. So we're just providing you with information. But if you want specific information unique to your personal financial situation, seek advice from a qualified financial advisor. Another thing, just a little administrative thing, like for y'all to click on the like button as many times as you can, and the heart button that gives you access to more people. God bless you, my brother.
Thank you.
And also, if you can, please put comments in the comment box. Now that gives us even greater access to more people when you put comments in there. But don't put comments in there. Put comments in there if you have an opinion on anything we're talking about or a question about anything we're talking about. This is our way that we can make this interactive. We're in a virtual studio. Doty's in South Carolina, and I am in Maryland. So we like to just welcome people from all around. But remember, use that comment box, y'all, and let us know of any, other type of shows or topics you'd like for us to cover, or if you have a question or something different that we're talking about, if we can address it today, we will. If it don't fit in what we're talking about, we definitely will get an answer to you. But 9 times out of 10, me and Doe, we usually answer it. If we don't know, we know where to get it. We'll get back to you by the next show. But chances are, between the two of us, we've got, how many years did you have, Doe, with in your financial career? How many years was that at PPG?
Well, I worked for 41.
You worked for 41.
Yep.
Okay. I worked for 30 at the FDIC, and that's so that's 71 years right there. And that's not talking about the pre-years before we worked at those places. We worked at other
the
places.
Schooling, the education.
But didn't you work somewhere else before PPG?
That's the only company I ever worked for.
You kidding me? The 41 years of straight PPG? Wow. Okay. Well, I worked before the FDIC. It was the RTC, Resolution Trust Corporation. Then it was the Financial Savings and Loan Insurance Corporation. Remember when we had savings and loans? We don't have them anymore, ladies and gentlemen. And then I worked at the Calvert Group, which was a brokerage firm as a certified stockbroker. So that's where our experience comes from, and we try to share the things that we've learned, the things that we've come across. And feel free to ask us any questions that you have or opinions on what we talked about. How's everything going in your world, Thomas Doty?
Life is good. Life is good.
Oh, that's so good to hear, man. It's good to hear. Like we always start the show with the favorite subject. And sometimes it's just gloom and doom. But we're hoping today you got some good news to tell us about the stock market.
Well, yeah, we got a 3-day winning streak going.
Things
have been going pretty good this week. But I mean, with the way things are going, who knows if it's going to continue? That's the funny part.
That is the key.
S&P is up 4%. The NASDAQ is up 5%, and most of the stocks that I have are up in that same range. You see, Microsoft's up 19 points for the week, 387. Apple's up 11 points, again, 5.6%. Nvidia's up 5%. Google's 5.2%. Even Pfizer went up a little bit. That Palantir, that did a little better. It's
it jumped up there, didn't it?
That's the stock. I got in there at 70, so I'm pretty happy that it's 108. I'm not going to sell any yet, but I don't know if I'll hold on to that one too long. That's a software company that's the CEO has favor with some of the folks in the White House, so it should continue to do well. You can see it's the only stock that has done well since the end of the year. It's actually 42% since the end of the year, where everything else is still down. And a lot of this, again, is based on the tariffs, that the way the market's reacting. And the other big thing that happened was Trump started talking about firing the Fed chief, which would basically, if he did and put in one of his cronies, would put the world economy in the hands of the president, which the markets, as expected, reacted very negatively to that news or that talk or that any conversation about him firing the Fed chief, because that department or that function is supposed to be independent of political influence. And so he backed off that statement, and the markets responded positively. He's kind of backed off on the China tariffs a little bit, but nobody knows what he's going to do. It's who knows? We're in some crazy times, but we had a good week. That's the best I can say about it.
Well, overall, though, since the tariffs, the actual market had dropped 10%, and I'm looking at these percentages week to week, and they are around 5%. So it's come back half the way. I guess that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, and again, you always think long term. You can see since the end of the year, though, it's market's down a pretty good hunk since the end of the year.
Yeah,
Nasdaq's down 11%. You look at Apple and Nvidia; they're both down a bunch since the end of the year. So
yeah, that far right column.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some of that back also, and things will start moving in a positive direction. I was no, I'll leave it at that.
Gold is up. It was up more than it is now. It got to its highest. It was at I think 3,400, down to 3,300 an ounce, and silver is up too to $33 an ounce, and that is good news, especially if you even holding gold physically, or like Dote, if you have gold in a fund, and it's doing very well. So let's talk about the cryptocurrency market, though. Cryptocurrency market's up 10%. 10%, though.
I got in right before tax day, so I had to be around the 14th.
Well, between last week and this week, it's up $8,686 per Bitcoin.
Yeah, I've done okay. I've done good on the Bitcoin front. I got in. And again, I got in at about 84, and I bought a fund through Fidelity, and I put 16 grand into that, and it's doing okay. It's doing
right, okay. But it's up 10%. Ethereum, exactly. The smart contract is up 12%. All cryptocurrencies are up. Tether, which is tied to the dollar, is really dealing with the movement of the dollar, so they say, but some of it's dollar and some of it's other assets. But at least it's one of the few cryptocurrencies that are backed by something, or pegged. It's not literally backed, but it's pegged to those indicators. Ripple, XRP is up 6% to $2.20 from 2007 cents. Binance, they still are holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Solana is at 7. So wait a minute, who do I have? I like to know who do I have at 6. Solana went to 7. Let me look at that right now. At number, oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Solana is 6. I left it at 7. And Deutsche dropped down to number 8. It was up there one time. So Solana is at number 6, which is not a bad thing, ladies and gentlemen. Not a bad thing. Cryptocurrency, like we say, be in it for the long haul, because it's highly speculative, as you can see. But can you imagine that swing, though? $8,600 swing between 1 week. So
yeah, and it's a very, very volatile play. And again, I wouldn't put my mortgage money or Billy Bob's college money in that, but if you got a little bit of money extra, it might be a good place to be, in my opinion. That's why I put a little bit of money in it, and I'll just see what it does. You know,
and like we said, it's all about having a diversified portfolio. Asset allocation is what it's about, so that you can, no matter if the market's up or down, you be able to protect your portfolio. But before you get into the more speculative things, you should definitely get into the more stalwart type things first. If you don't have, mutual fund, or IRA, or bonds, anything like that, you need to, really consider before you put a bunch of money. They normally say the benchmark is like, don't put more than 2% of your earnings into cryptocurrency, but that's just the benchmark.
Yeah, benchmarks, they aren't worth the paper they're written on. You know how much money.
Somewhat of an indicator.
You know how much money you can afford to lose, and
most people say I can't afford to lose nothing.
What?
Most people say they can't afford to lose nothing.
Well, then they wouldn't invest in anything. Then.
There you go.
And no. You're gonna stay broke.
No, you don't.
You're gonna stay broke.
No, but you don't need to. No. Well, that's a good thing, but you don't need to be in cryptocurrency. Let's put it like that.
No, but again, if you got, a few bucks you can put in there and not be concerned and realize it's in for the long term, and it's a volatile play. It might go to zero, but it might double or triple too. So
right,
you got to take a chance.
Well, I guess that leads us to our topic today's show, because last week it was the financial journey. We hope that was interesting to you all and provided you with essential information. But today, and this is kind of like what we're talking about, we want to talk about financial mistakes to avoid, because a lot of people don't say they don't have no money they can afford to lose, but they're overspending on things, or they have, buying $50, $100 lottery tickets a week, and they say they don't have enough money to lose. So we want to talk about some of the financial mistakes to avoid that can lead you to more prosperity.
Yeah, and first, let's distinguish between not knowing, and if you don't know, you don't know. You need to figure out how to learn. But there's also a lot of mistakes, and that's what we're going to talk about, the mistakes. And there's a bunch of mistakes out there. It could be you taking bad advice, or you don't plan, or you confused about some things, and you don't understand what retirement is, and that's a tough one, because that's not something you get to do twice. You get to do that once in your life, and it's not something you have experience having done. And we're going to talk about some of the biggest mistakes people make, and the majority of them really have nothing to do with finances.
That's interesting.
That should make you pay attention to this, because it should be an eye opener if you're planning to retire in the short term, or if retirement's a long way off. We're still going to talk about some of the mistakes you can make and how to avoid them.
And let's just admit, though, there's some factors, that may be out of your control, but it's still wise to try to get your finances on track. At the very least, review where you are. We always talk about where you're going, where you invest in trying to go, but you need to know where you are, review where you are, and create a sound plan. Now, it's possible that there's nothing you can do differently. We admit that. And there's no extras sometimes, money that you can find in your budget. We grant you that. And there's nothing once you look at it, you can look and review your finances and realize there's nothing that you can cut. But for many people, there are a few things that can change, like overspending, being honest with yourself, review your credit card statements, make realistic budgets, right? And then also try to stick to it. And if you don't, and most people don't, give yourself some grace and some credit, and just try again if you fall short. We understand it's, not everybody's situation is not the same, and sometimes things just happen. But learning to balance your financial obligations is what we're talking about when it comes to your short and long-term goals. It's an important skill, However, making financial mistakes may make it even harder. So avoiding some of these following missteps may help set yourself on more of a financial success in the future. Why don't you take the first one, though?
Yeah, and the first one is treating your retirement savings or your 401k savings like a credit card. And there could be a situation where you need to tap your 401k or take a loan, but people do it under the guise of, well, I'm just borrowing from myself. And that's, if you sit down and do the math, borrowing from your 401k is no different from borrowing from a bank because of the interest you forego on the money you take out. So you just have to trust me on that, or sit down and do the analysis. If you take the money out of your 401k, you take the money out of the bank, and the interest rate's the same, it has the same effect on your savings. And so a lot of people end up tapping their 401k. And when you do that, you're missing the opportunity to grow. Your money's not growing when you take it out. And so the best way to do it, the ideal way, is to have an emergency fund set aside for those things that you need, that may come up, that may happen, like that are going to happen. Your car's going to break, your appliances are going to break. There are going to be things you need. Try to develop an emergency fund to handle those, and try not to tap your retirement savings. And the other big mistake that gets complicated when people take those loans, and if you, for some reason, you can't pay it back, or if you lose your job or you've got a loan outstanding, then that becomes a distribution. And then you have tax complications. Or you decide to take some money out of a 401k and it's pre-tax, and then you have to pay tax on that. And in some cases, you may have to pay a penalty. So when you set some retirement money aside, try your best to keep that money at work growing for you, and don't use it like a credit card, or as I need some money, I can go in there and grab it.
Now, the next one is not planning for health complications. Now, this is tricky. And here's one big financial mistake: believing you won't encounter any health complications for the rest of your life. Now, that's tricky. Most people, even if you're staying healthy, but having a backup plan for things go south can help prevent unnecessary pains and stress. For instance, making sure, like, whether you are taking Medicare, to make sure you pick the right plan that is for you. Or if you're not, before you're at retirement age, make sure, you got PPOs, you got HMOs, make sure you pick the right plan. If you're a person that in your history you've had health issues, complications, then you may need to think about getting a PPO instead of an HMO, so you could, decide where you want to go to your doctor instead of having to go to the plan that the HMO tells you. So I know this is a tricky one. No one really plan to get have sickness, but just make sure you pick the right health plans.
Okay, the next one is thinking retirement planning is just for your finances.
Oh, that's a good one.
And that's a mistake that people make, and they don't think about the non-financial aspects, and they just think they'll stop working and they'll spend all their time, playing golf and taking vacation. But typically that's not what happens. You have to consider your daily routine and the contact you made with people that you work with, and that structured environment. And I got to admit that was hard for me to, when I retired, because you're in that environment, and if you have a pretty good position, you usually have a lot of people who help you do what you do. And when you retire, you don't. When you need to get your passport renewed, you got to go do it yourself. There's a lot of things like that you have to do that you didn't have to do. And a lot of the relationships you form with coworkers disappear because they're in their world at work, which is totally separate from your world as a retiree. And so a lot of times you get a lot of pride and a feeling of accomplishment by having worked. But if you retire, you don't have that. So you got to plan for that. And you got to think about your lifestyle, your daily routine, what you're going to do, how you're going to keep busy, how you're going to stay motivated. If you want to make a contribution, how are you going to do that? Not let people impede on your time because you are retired. But all those things you need to think through. And you can't play golf 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You can't travel that much. You got to have a plan for what you're going to do when you retire.
Don't want to take a quick moment and congratulate my sister Linda, who's not on today. Her granddaughter had a baby boy and named Idris. And congratulations, Christina and Sharoos. Linda's had, Rhonda had 3 girls. Now they finally got a boy, another boy in the family. Daryl is Linda's son, but now she's got a great grandson. So just want to congratulate you. Hey, Doe, another one is, this is a big one because I've known people to do this. A financial mistake. Using retirement money to pay for your kids' college. Now, I know it's tempting. I know it's tempting, especially if your 401k plan has been doing well the past 10 years. A regrettable mistake that I've witnessed people make is raiding the retirement accounts to pay for the kids' college expenses. Now, it seemed like a reasonable idea to take out the 401k loan to pay for college, but parents frequently lose out on the larger gains their money would have made in the stock market versus the small percentage of interest that pay themselves to borrow. For instance, normally if you borrow from your 401k plan, like the thrift savings plan, it's you got to pay back 4% on the money that you borrow. So people think, whoa, well, I'm paying myself back 4%. Yeah, but if you took it out of the market, and the market this last year alone paid 25%, that's a big difference. And you sometimes can't make back that difference. Now, if you don't have enough money saved in your old age, there's such a thing. There's no such thing as a retirement loan. You only get there by investing consistently over time. And there are plenty of ways to pay for your kids' college, work study, loans, part-time jobs, scholarships, or grants. There's other things. And like Doe said, the same thing about taking your money out. If just look at this example, you may be thinking if your debt is costing you 24% and your retirement account is paying 7%, you swap it out to retirement debt means you'll be pocketing the difference. No, it's not that simple. And you're losing the power of your money to compound if it was in there, and especially if you were earlier, your age is before 59 and a half. Now you're also paying a 10% penalty. So be conscious of that. And the most disciplined planners have a tough time placing money aside to rebuild those accounts when they take the money out.
Yeah, and the next one is not understanding the different types of retirement accounts. And that's a common mistake because people don't take the time to understand which accounts they're building investments in. And this is asset location. And that's the mix between taxable accounts, pre-tax accounts, Roth accounts, okay? 3 different types. They're all handled differently. There are different rules. There's age restrictions. There's holding restrictions. There's different tax situations. And you have to understand that because if you don't have a thoughtful plan about where you put money between those accounts, when it's time to take money out, you can put yourself in a disadvantaged position from a tax perspective. And you may end up having to pay capital gains when you might have been able to put your risky stuff in something that's tax protected so it can grow, and have your money that's not heavily taxed as more available, more readily available. So you really have to think through where you put your money, where you're building your money, and how you think you're going to be taking your money out to get an advantageous tax situation. That's a tough one that might require some work, and it may require some expertise from a professional.
So now this next one may kind of shock people. Like you say, all of them are not specific financial, but it does pertain to it. Not planning for what you'll actually do during retirement, and you don't have to wait till 2 years, 5 years away. People spend so much time planning financially, yet often spend little time planning practically for their retirement. A lot of people, host careers. Most of those people don't plan, and they end up have all this idle time. Sometimes, what will your retirement life look like, to you? When you think about, do you want to travel? Because if you do, that takes, planning for your money too. Play golf, volunteer for a cause, or whatever your vision is. It is best to have a plan for that initial transition so you can adjust accordingly to your new life, because that can actually cost you money too, because you get around bored and you end up spending on things you don't need. But consider that.
Yeah, and the next one, and this is one, it kind of touches on what I talked about before, but you might retire early and you don't have a plan. Or, realistically, you might get cut loose from your job and not have a plan. So it's something you ought to be thinking about at all times. Well, what am I going to do if I retire, if I decide to leave early, if I get a reduction in force? And you got to make a plan for what you're going to do next. You don't want to be just spend your time wandering around the house watching TV, but because you probably won't be happy. So those are things you need to think about. What am I going to do? How am I going to make myself feel? I'm going to make myself be fulfilled. Where can I make a contribution? What kind of things can I get into that are going to keep me happy? Those are the kind of things you got to think about to keep from being bored in retirement.
Hey, a lot of people, think that they can wait to start saving for retirement. This is for all you younger people out there, especially, that was the thing though that I was when I started. It's like, oh man, how much should I put in? When do I start? And that's what people make the mistake of not starting early enough so that compound interest can work to your favor. No matter how much money you make, it is best to start saving as soon as you can. Even if you took $5 a month, you should put $5 in an investment account. The best time to start saving for investment is in your early years when you're just starting your job, young people. And the second best time to start? Today. So one retirement mistake that most people do, and they kick themselves, in the behind for not starting to save and invest earlier. And when you learn, and we talk about compound interest all the time, the magic of it, it does wonders. And without making any withdrawals, it becomes pretty amazing. The first rule of compounding interest is never to interrupt it unnecessarily. That's what we were talking about. Don't be taking it out, because the more is in there, the more it compounds. Just sit back and watch the power of compounding. Typically, you'll see interest gain start to pick up around the 10-year mark and continue to grow larger. Now, the U.S. household personal savings rate was 3.6% in April of 2024, a year ago. And many households live paycheck to paycheck, and there's no sign of improvement. Unfortunately, this puts people in precarious positions, one in which every dollar matters, and even one missed paycheck would be disastrous. This is not the position you want to find yourself in, especially in these economic times and a recession is looming.
Yeah, the next one, it may seem minor, but it can really wreak havoc if you don't do this right. And that's forgetting to assign account beneficiaries. A lot of people do that. A lot of the plans allow you to add multiple beneficiaries. You can designate primary, you can have contingent, you can have secondary, you can set up a benefit split between them. And a lot of people do the first step of assigning a beneficiary, but then don't reevaluate and update it every year as times change, things change, people change. So it's something you should review every year to make sure it's where you need to be. And lastly, you should make sure you explain that to the beneficiary so they can know that it's available if something happens to you. There are a lot of funds that end up unclaimed because people don't know that they are the beneficiary on account. It seems crazy to think, but it does happen. If you look at some of the S-cheat sheets and see how much money states are holding for unclaimed money, you'd be absolutely alarmed.
Right.
It's a minor point, but it's something you should have done. And if, even from a tax perspective, if you have a beneficiary, then that account typically doesn't have to go through probate. So you save a waiting period, you save fees coming out to handle it, and it just makes everything a lot smoother.
This next one gets people dope. When they have money saved up and their investments are paying off and they have a healthy pension plan, and they may feel it's okay to go on a spending spree, especially people after retirement, where after all, that money you have, what's the sense in having it if you can't have a good time? But while there's nothing wrong with spending money, but overspending before or in retirement can leave you bankrupt and stranded. You don't want to be retired and broke. There's two personal goals I have, though. One, I don't want to be old and broke, and two, I don't want to be old and broke up. Those are my only two personal goals I have.
That's a perfect segue into the next one, is not setting retirement goals. And again, I've touched on this a little bit, but you got to have a plan in anything you do, whether it's finances, but also in your life. Sometimes you hate your job so bad that you quit and you end up being miserable. You think your job was the worst situation you could be in, but you retire without a plan and you end up just not happy there either. So, find things that interest you, engage you, and find a way you can make a difference, pick up hobbies, try something new, go places you haven't been, but try to just keep yourself going to make that retirement fulfilling. The last thing I want to see anybody do is retire and not be happy. And that's pretty much how you're going to spend the rest of your life.
No, and not being prepared for unexpected health crisis. Now, some people may think I talked about health complications, but what this is talking about mainly is, pondering the possibility of becoming incapacitated. Most people don't think about that. And as you age, it's not a pleasant thing, to do, to be thinking about that. However, it is a mistake not to. Therefore, being prepared by designating both a financial and healthcare power of attorney. It's necessary to protect yourself and your family, and you can set this up, before retirement. Don't wait until your health is declining to start this process. It's called medical directive, right? Being proactive will allow you to choose someone you can trust to make your healthcare decisions and handle your affairs. Finally, strive to get it done well before you retire, no matter what age you plan to retire.
And the next one is a lot of people, again, retire because they hate their job, but they don't have anything they're going towards. So, look at it, instead of, I'm glad to get out of this job, look at it as, I'm glad to get into this next opportunity in my life, whatever that may be. And there's a zillion things out there that you can get into, zillion opportunities, different things you can explore. It might just be something as simple as spending more time with your family, or a casual hobby, or getting involved in the community, or being a political influence, or another profession that you've always wanted to get into. A lot of things you can do. So don't just run from the job and not have an idea of what's next. Okay.
Yeah, that's true talk though. And then financial mistakes to avoid. A summary of all this at all costs. I hope y'all listening to some of the things we said because half the things that we mentioned, some form of the fact that people fail to plan for what they will actually be doing prior retirement, pre-retirement, and post-retirement. Whether they're starting a side job from home for fun and profit if you're retiring, or finding a volunteer opportunity for a cause you care about. Figuring out how you would spend your retirement years is really, really important because it will affect your finances. Now, while there are many things you can do to ensure a smooth financial landscape, make sure you are also planning for what you are retiring to, not just what you are retiring from. Having a well-defined financial plan is essential for securing a stable and prosperous financial future. And now, comprehensive plan, what me and Doe always talk about, helps you get, and set clear goals. It also encourages you to allocate money wisely and navigate economic uncertainties. Now, your financial plan serves as a roadmap for making informed financial decisions. That's the key, you all. And not everything that we face we can change, but you can't change anything unless you face it. And the more information, the more you prepare, the more you be. And those things include budgeting, saving, investing, and prepare for future milestones, like for your young people, home ownership, post-education, and even retirement. That was quite a bit there, Dope. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, and the only other thing, and I don't know if you said this or not, but another reason not to hit your retirement money to pay for college, you don't have much time to recover. We always talk about compounding and how time is your friend when it comes to that. Where if your kid decides to take a loan, they got time to recover. They got time to build a nest egg. That's just another reason not to tap your retirement money to pay for college.
Yeah, that is good. Mo Better, what's up, Mo Better? Mo Better, have a question here.
Did you figure out who it is?
Hey, Mo Better, I know who you are now. I looked you up. What's up, Mo Better? Mo Better. Hey, Mo Better, she said, what's a good book to read up on stocks? Do you have a particular book? There is one book. Oh, Jesus.
The one that made the biggest difference for me was a book by, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He ran Fidelity's. Peter Lynch is his name, but I'm not sure the name of the book. But it was just like a practical guide to investing. And that book is probably 25, 30 years old. But a lot of the principles he talked about in that book are valid even today. And that was the book that had the greatest influence on me.
And there's many books out there, Mo Better. Like there's one book called Broke Millennial, Taking on Investing, a beginner's guide to living up your money. It's by Aaron Lowry, Lowre. There's another one that I had was the little book. It's called The Common Sense Investing, which is by John Bogle. And Bogle was with Vanguard. Right. That's Vanguard, right, though? Bogle guy. Is it Vanguard? Yes, he was. Yeah, he was the creator of Vanguard. Yes, definitely. And that's just a couple of books that you could think. There's one more called The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, and those can help you go out there. No one in particular, but those are just ones that I had stocked in my holding.
And Bob, the other thing that had a really, really strong influence on me was a subscription to Money Magazine. And
yes,
when I was first starting out, again, and not knowing very much about, I won't say how to handle finances, how to handle personal finances, because I was a professional accountant at the time. But I picked up a lot of tips from Money Magazine. And there are so many periodicals that are available now for free. But I subscribed to Money Magazine probably for 20 years, from when I was 23 to probably till I was mid 40s. And I can't tell you the tidbits of information that I picked up along the way. And if you've been watching, you know I'm pretty cheap, and I watch my pennies. And a lot of what I've learned and a lot of what I do, I got from Money Magazine, and also got from my mother, who is also pretty frugal. But it's the little things that add up to the big things. I mean, a lot of the big things just are common sense. You know, save your money, diversify. But it's the little things of not wasting money, or buying things when they're on sale, knowing what season things come on sale. You know, little things like that I picked up from reading Money Magazine, Consumer Reports, to learn. I learned not to buy cheap things, but to buy. And again, I don't mean I go out and buy the most expensive thing out there, but I always try to buy the best quality item. And sometimes you have to pay more to get quality. And again, I got that from Consumer Reports of what's the best product out there, what's the longest lasting, what's the most efficient. And those are all things that add money to your pile when you know how to shop effectively. I've always been a coupon guy. I've always been a guy who looks at the apps, who downloads apps to get the free. You know, my birthday's coming up, and I get all kind of free meals and free this and free that just for signing up for apps. I never put my real birthday though. I always make it around my birthday. I never put the real, especially the year. But it's just those little things. They all add up to big things. I think I told Bob I get the Landry because I like going to Morton's. And if you buy their gift cards, they give you 20% discounts. They give you points for buying the gift cards. So you get extra bonuses. So I end up with like $700 worth of gift cards, and it costs me like $400. But those are the kind of things I do, and I don't mind doing. And I actually enjoy doing. I enjoy saving money. It kind of a little victory for me. But
same here too, though.
Yeah, back to your original point, there's a lot of good books. There's a lot of good information. Just make sure it's something reliable and it's not some left wing or right wing, far out stuff, conspiracy based stuff to get you to learn.
Or high risk, get rich quick stuff.
Exactly.
But Mo Better says, have y'all tried Robinhood?
I use Robinhood. That's how I bought my Bitcoin.
But let me tell you the use of Robinhood though. The thing about Robinhood, they do not provide advice. You do not have actual person that advise you. Now, Robinhood is a platform if you want to trade and purchase stocks and things like that, but they do not actually give you financial advice. I don't know. They might have gone into robo advisors, but they definitely do not give you physical human being advice.
And I said I bought my Bitcoin there, but I ended up buying a fund in Fidelity in a Roth account, but I originally used Robinhood to buy Bitcoin. And again, that was something I didn't need advice on. To Bob's point, it's not something you go to for advice, but there are a lot of Vanguard, Fidelity,
their newsletters,
Schwab, a lot of those, and you can get a minimum amount of advice, but the most that you can get is research. You can get information, and that can be very key. And if you sign up for those, you end up getting newsletters from that again has information that will help you manage your money. And so it's a ton of information out there, and you get your hands on as much as you can.
Yes, that's true information, you all. So what's that, dope? Let's go to the summary and takeaways. And
I think I'm up first.
Yeah, no.
Are we working today?
You gotta let me know.
It looks like it's coming up, but I'm not sure. There's the crypto.
It's there.
Still the crypto. There's a summary. You got it going.
Good.
Number one, retirement savings are for retirement. Don't use it for your kids' college. Don't use it to buy that car that gets your eye. Try to set up a separate emergency fund. Use that money for retirement. Let it grow for you. Leave it be and let it grow.
Next one is get your estate in order. I'm talking about the beneficiaries, the wills, and the estate plan. That is so important. A lot of people, especially Black people, do not do estate planning, and you need to do it. And I know a lot of people get these online wills. Just remember, the will still can go to probate. You need to understand about estate plan, which will give you better information about trusts, because trusts, do not go into probate. And remember, beneficiaries do not go to probate either. So make sure you get those things in order.
And this one is kind of near and dear to me. It's take control of your health. And I'm gonna tell you, if you're not old, getting old is very, very hard. It's hard. And if you are in shape, you don't have a chance. I mean, you aren't going to win. We all know that. Nobody's going to win against Mother Nature, but you want to give it a good fight, and you give it a much better fight if you're in shape. And there's an article I read that kind of struck me, and she mentioned 5 things you ought to try to do. And the first one is eat like your body matters, because it does. Think about what you're putting in your mouth. Either it's something that's going to help you be better, or it's going to help make you worse. Think about that. Get your rest, control your peace, get rid of the stress, try to be around people that light up when they see you. That's who you want to see, people who you feel good being around. You got to keep active. You got to keep moving. And even if you can't make it to the gym, try to take a walk. Just try to keep your body going and keep growing. Keep trying to be better. Keep trying to learn more. Keep evolving. Those are my keys for getting on top of your health.
And the last one is a retirement plan is more than just numbers. It's about planning, and goals are key. A lot of people think it's all about saving and accumulating money, and it's about numbers, budgeting, and investing. But it's also about your lifestyle. It's also about those intangible things, what you want to do with your life after retirement. And there's so many other things more than just your numbers. So make sure you know that retirement is just not about your numbers, how much money you have, okay? It's about, your health, like Doe talked about earlier. It's about, having the proper documents in place. It's not just about accumulating money. It's about protecting your assets also. So, with that, just want to thank everybody for being with us. That was once again, Dope. I believe that was a lot of money. And just want to do a roll call. We've got a lot of people around the country and around the world. Though, I want to thank Continent for being with us. Carl Chapman, been with us since the beginning. Mo Better, my dear, thank you so much. Here we go again. She said, I'm singing. Modestine down in Lexington. My wonderful sister, Nolia Melton, and my wonderful sister, Gloria Kenza Brown. What's happening? Now, Edwards Doty. What's up now? Thank you for always being there, dear. Love you much. We got Say Garnett. Rodney L. Madison Sr. Go check him out. The NoteExperience.com, another alternative investment holding mortgage notes, which is really interesting. We're going to have you on too, Rodney, soon. What's up, Deborah Doty? What's up, Debbie? DD, glad you're with us, my dear. And I think I covered everybody. And Lottie died. Oh, hey, Kitty, Kitty came in there at the last hour. Kitty Cheney, the queen of Toastmasters, and our wonderful, my man, checking in my Thursday evening financial tutorial, James Alexander.
Brother Jimmy.
Brother Jimmy, what's up, dude? So Mobile said, where can I get an estate plan? You can get with any, well, not any, but you need to get with an attorney, estate planning attorney. And that's not any attorney. That's a estate planning attorney. And actually, you know what? I'm going to give you the name of one. My good partner. I'm glad you said I'm gonna put it in the chat for you. And before I finish out, so I give it to you. He's an attorney, and if he's local here in Maryland, the great guy's name is Obrin Barnes.
Is Mo Better live in Maryland?
Yes.
Because they are state specific.
Yeah, no, she definitely, because she comes to the Bowie Town Center functions.
And I'll tell you, before you go, try to think about some of the things of who you're going to make your executor, who you're going to make your trustee, who your beneficiaries are, who you're going to give power if you have a medical emergency, your medical directive. Those are all the questions they're going to ask you, but it'd be good if you had those ready when you go.
Yeah, be prepared. Yeah, that's more prepared you are, better it is. And did I get it in there? What happened to it? It truncated it for some reason. Oh, there it is. Open Barnes 301-799. There you go. Mo Better. No, and to end the day, it wouldn't be a complete day without my quote of the day. Why save your face when you're losing your ass? Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Please, because a lot of people are doing that. Their pride get to them. They don't want to mess up. Why? Be saving your face when you lose your
My mother used to say, don't bite your nose off to spite your face.
Yes.
And I didn't the one I didn't understand was you want to have your cake and eat it too. I never got that because I used to think, well, what's the use of having it if you can't eat it? But then I think my son-in-law might have told me, no, you want to have it and you want to eat it, and you can't do both. You got to either have it or eat it. So now I get it.
Well, I'm so glad you got it after all those years.
Took me a while.
Yeah, good for you. So look, we see y'all next week. Thank you all for tuning in. 196. We headed to 200 though, and we're taking our folks with us. Looking forward to another next week of financial education information that you can use for you and your family. Have a good evening.